Okay, here we are on part number 3, humidity and temperature. Is probably one of the longest and most argued of hatching because there's so many different ways to do hatching. If you ask, let's say, 100 people, what do you set your incubator at on humidity and temperature, you're probably going to get at least 50 different answers from 100 different people. It's not only because everybody has a different opinion, but a lot of time if you have the same opinion, your incubators could be wrong on the temperatures themselves. So where I set mine, and this is not where I usually do my temperatures, but say 99.5, 40% humidity, if you calibrate that with temperature and hydrometer, you're looking at failure as well. So you see the difference in it. 98.1 on temperature, where the incubator is 99.5, and 41% humidity, where this one's set at 40. So that would say your temperatures are off at least, almost a degree and a half. So if somebody says I set mine at 99.8, and somebody else says, well, I set mine at 98.5, they could be agreeing but still disagreeing at the same time because your calibration on your incubators are wrong. Very important, keep checking your calibration on your incubators. Just because it was fine one day doesn't mean it's fine another day. Some of them you'll set the calibration, and if you unplug it to clean it to go do another hatch, some of those cheaper incubators will reset themselves and the calibration will be off again. Very important, check your temperatures and humidity numerous times. So one thing we do is, obviously, we get our gauge and we check it with that. I do not use just one gauge, and I will show you a reason why. Because just like your incubators, not everything is set to be the proper way from factory. So I'll try and do this quick without dropping too many temperatures and humidities. But let's say we have another one. Here's a meat thermometer that I use. When I pulled it out, it was 97 degrees. Well, that's different than the 98.1 degree. If we go back in, grab another one, humidity 30, temperature 98, well, 97.9. So there's another difference in. And then the last one we have is a temperature gauge, or a weather station that I use, that I have hooked up to the outside, and you can use it inside here to check as well. Right here, we're looking at 98.4 and 33% humidity. So now we have 5 different temperatures, 4 different humidities. Which one's right? Well, that comes into the problem of why we're discussing this. Most likely, neither of them are 100% accurate. What you're looking at is calibrated for whatever it was at factory and such. So my bottom line is, don't trust any of your gauges. My solution is, and I'll show you a picture of what we have ourselves, what we do is we get a bunch of cheap, kind of like these, right? Maybe 6, 12, however many you want into what you're doing, depends on how big your incubator is. One like this, we could set up, even if they were all calibrated to the same, we could set up 12 of them. I can open this now because it's not really that big of a deal. We could set 12 of them inside this incubator, different spots on the shelves, and you will come up with different temperatures and different humidities on each one. That is because most every incubator you have will have a cold spot or will have a hot spot. Reason being, like this one here, nothing wrong with this one, but right here in this spot is where your fan is. That's where your humidity is going in. That's where your heat and humidity is coming out. So it's going to blow it all out through the top, and it's going to circulate in through here. Not every spot is going to be 100% the same temperature, because you have spots like maybe right here is going to be a little colder, or in the back over here it's going to be a little warmer, because that's where all your heat and humidity is going out for the air circulation. So that's why I say get a lot of them and test your cold spots, test your hot spots, where are they at, test your gauges in different spots. So if you get 6 and you put 1 on each shelf, write down your numbers, write down what everything is, and then switch the gauges and put each one on a different shelf. Mark what they are, where they were on a piece of paper on your last one, and basically just kind of do what I did here, where you're writing your incubator down, your temperature of what it is, one you used, and move it around on a shelf and see if it still gives you the same reading, how much difference is it, and then you can ballpark average which one is right and calibrate your incubator to what you feel the temperatures are correct on it. So then, with all that said, then it is probably the question, what do I do for my humidities, and what options are there? One option is your dry hatch, and then the other one is a wet hatch. So a dry hatch is basically you're not adding any liquid, any water to your incubator while it's in the 17-day incubation process. So then you would add your water at the end during lockdown on day 18, and that is where you would then jack your humidity up to the 60 to 65%. With the dry humidity, with the dry hatch, you would put it no lower than 15, no higher than 30. So if you live in a dry climate, most likely you'll have to add a little bit of water, so you can keep it at the 15%, but not too much that you would put it at the 30%. So there's positive, there's negatives. It's a lot depends on where you live. If I would do a dry hatch, these incubators in the climate where we are in here in Pennsylvania, I could take all the humidity, all the water away, and we would still hang out probably around 25 to 30% humidity, and that is without adding any water at all. So I technically wouldn't have to add anything, but say we lived in Arizona in a drier climate where your humidity on the outside is probably well below 30, you may have to add water to your incubator through that incubation time, because it would probably go down around 10%. And if you do that, well, your eggs are going to dry out and you're going to end up with shrink wrap chicks. So the other way with the wet hatch is you're going to have your humidity around 40 to 50% for the first 17 days, and then on day 18 you would then also put it up to 60 to 65%. Now again, these are the average numbers. We do not do any of that. We do it a little bit differently, and it's hard to explain how I would do it, just for the simple fact of when I use these incubators, I'm having to fight with, say I have 2 shelves filled that have already been incubating for 5 days. Then I have another 2 shelves filled that have been incubating for 12 days. And then on the bottom 2 shelves, maybe I have a set that's hatching. or is 2 days away from hatch, or you know what I'm saying. So my humidity and temperatures I change constantly throughout my hatching. What I will say is mine is a little bit different than everybody else that I've ever heard of. My hatch kind of goes based off of what my hens are doing. So my hens, the same as everybody else's hens, are sitting on those eggs for 21 days average. I have never seen a chicken hop off the nest, go jump in a pool of water on 2 days before they hatch, a day before they hatch, and then go jump on those eggs. I've not seen a single hen raise humidity, lower humidity, worry about their humidity. So my average, if I was to fill this one incubator up, my humidity is going to be somewhere around 45% consistently. I will set it, I will leave it there, but I'm also going to be evaluating how the eggs look. I'm not going to be opening and closing the door every day, because that is a huge mistake if what you're doing is opening and closing, because you're knocking your temperatures down, you're knocking your humidities down, or even raising your humidity up if you're doing a dry hatch. So my rule, close the doors, keep them closed, do not look in them, do not mess with them unless you absolutely have to. You put them in lockdown, you don't look at them until you know you have a chick hatch, and you know, because you'll hear it making noise. So from that point of hearing it make noise, I will not open that incubator again for 48 hours. Because if you do, you have chicks that are in here already trying to hatch, you open that up and a blast of dry air goes in, that dries the egg membrane out, shrink wrap chicks. So that's that. So 45% is about what I do, and I keep it pretty steady. I will evaluate. So as everybody knows who has candled eggs and has done this, you get your air cell, starts on average about there, and in day 7 is about when I'll then go in and do a candling to make sure everything is fertile. If it's not fertile, and I say day 7, that's when I check my fertility. I'm not worried about eggs popping or breaking or rotten eggs or anything like that, because I know my eggs are fresh. Well, between 3 and 10 days. So I know there's not going to be any eggs that are going bad. I've already candled them before I put them in, because I'm making sure everything is good, doesn't have any cracks, or there's no problems inside. So again, day 7, I go in, I'm going to want to see that air cell has probably gone about this much bigger. That's going to be day 7. Now if that air cell, let's say, goes down, I'm sorry, my drawing is horrible, but comes down around that far, day 7, I know I have a problem. It's gone too far. So I'm going to check every single egg really quick, and I'm going to be looking for everything, either it's here or in between here and here. So if this is the worst one, this is the best one, well, I have to adjust my humidity. What am I going to adjust it for? If everything's down around here, I'm going to add maybe 5 to 10% humidity just to slow that shrinking process down. So as I said, here we are, and it's going to depend on the size of your eggs. So your eggs, we have different size. Make sure I get it in the camera here. Different size eggs. So your air pockets are going to be a little different on each one. So if you go here and you have that size, you're going to want to keep checking, and it's going to be different for everybody and their eggs. You're going to want to make sure you're doing everything, studying and getting everybody else's opinions on what they do. But again, this is what we do, and this is how we like to do it, and we get really great hatch rates. So day 7, And then from there, I may check on day 12, maybe 13. At least I try to. And by that time, that's about as low as I'm going to want to watch my air cell go to on day 13. Right? So if that goes all the way around straight across on day 13, it's pretty average around, it's pretty good. What you're going to want to look for when you go into lockdown is you're going to get a little dip down on one part of it. So that part that dips down on day 18, when you go for lockdown, you want to see a little more straight line here and then a dip down. And when you get that dip down, you know that's where they're pipping out of. You don't want them to pip out of here. You don't want them to pip down here. You're looking for this area. This is their sweet spot. And when they do that, everything else is going to plane out when they pip, because they're going to sit in there probably about 24 hours or so, 24 to 48 hours after the pip. And the rest of this is going to get loosened up. All the veins that are up in here are going to then slowly get absorbed. Here I have a duck egg that I can show you a little bit of what I'm talking about with the dip down and where it's going to end up pipping. I'll turn the light off here to see if you can see it. So if it was straight on, you would see the line would continue to go across this way. But this is the dip down that I'm talking about, of where it's going to end up pipping. And I can't tell you exactly what day this is on right now. I didn't look. But there you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the dip. I believe this still has a week to go. So anyway, with that being said, I don't necessarily think anybody's going to believe that my way is the way to go. Mine is, as I said, a little bit different than most people will do. Find what works for you. There's nothing wrong with trying to experiment, trying to find what is going to solve your problems if you're having some hatching problems. Some problems that you will see, though, with hatching at the end is problems with, let's say, splay leg, or your eggs hatch and your chicks are basically look like they're stuck in honey. That all will lead to a humidity temperature problem. Some of the things that cause that, as I said, are opening the incubator too much. That's why we try not to open it much at all. People that have to rotate their own eggs, you're looking at having to open that incubator every time you rotate an egg. That is lowering your temperatures and your humidity every time. That's why I kind of question all the time how people are always lifting the lid and rotating their eggs every 2 or 4 hours. It's too much. Definitely don't need to do it that much. The other things are that can cause it with your temperature being too low. A couple degrees off, too low. Say you have your temperature around 97, 98. I know there's some people that say, well, if you lower your temperature, you'll get more boys or girls. I think they're shooting for girls, so you're lowering your temperature down lower. Which, and no, that doesn't work either. That is for alligators and some other lizards I know do that. But it does not work with chickens. Anybody that says that you can lower a temperature or do this to an egg or a rounded top egg or a pointed top egg gives you boys or girls depending on what the egg is or the temperature or humidity is, it's not true. It doesn't work that way. We have not come across anything that states or says or does or anything that will change the gender of an egg. When adding water to get your humidity up at lockdown or any other time, make sure you are adding room temperature or slightly warmer. If you add cold water or hot water, you are going to be looking at a humidity spike or humidity lowering. You put cold water in, you're going to lower your humidity quick, and it's not going to recover right away. You put the hot water in, it raises it up really fast, and it might take a while to recover from that. It could put condensation on the eggs. If it does put condensation on the eggs, you're looking at causing more of those problems. But with the, I'm going to get back to the the part with the deformities or problems with the end of hatch. When you have where your chicks look like there's honey in the egg and they're trying to pip, or they're drowning and suffocating in that, you're looking at your temperatures being too low. That's why I say get numerous gauges, check your humidities on every single gauge, average it out, and see what you have going there. That's also going to be included in when you're cleaning out your incubator. Get all the sensors and gauges cleaned off there, because having too much dust or chick fluff on there can cause your temperatures to be off a little bit. The other thing is, if your temperature or your humidity is too high, can cause that as well through the incubation time. So if you're running your incubator at 45 and you're seeing there's, at the end, you're getting that honey texture in an egg, that could be a situation of that. A lot of times you have that if you have to open your incubator a lot of times, because you have different eggs at different times, you'll end up with a hatch like that. The other part that does that is if you're not rotating your eggs the first 10 days of incubation. That can cause a lot of that liquid to not be able to come out of the egg through the ventilation. So that, and in the next section of where I say about doing overcrowding, that can cause those problems as well. I said about not adding cold or hot water, but the other type of water you want to make sure you're avoiding is not, if you have city water or well water. The things you have to think about are the chemicals that are in the water. City water has bleach, fluoride, who knows what else chemicals are added to it. So if you're going to use city water, you should probably have some kind of filter that is going to get your water contamination, your minerals and everything down to zero. Really hard to do that. Same as having well water. You're going to have issues with hard water, other types of minerals and things that you can't get out of with a filter. So to combat that, even if you have a well that has a filtration system on or a water softener on, you're still adding chemicals into your water that you're not going to want in there. So, and that'll be the same as after your chicks hatch. You're going to want to be careful with anything, water softeners, city waters, or anything like that can harm your little ones after they do hatch. Because we do have a lot of people call and ask us, hey, what's wrong with our chicks? We have good, healthy well water. Yeah, it might be okay for humans, but if some of these filters I know use like citric acid, things like that, to filter and soften water, that can be really harmful to your chick. So even things, spring water. This is a natural spring water. Whether it is or not, I don't really know. But I still will not use that. Do not use bottled water that comes from springs, or filtered water from springs, or natural anything bottled water. What you're going to be looking for is, doesn't matter the name, but you're going to be looking for distilled water. That is taken and all minerals are taken out of it. It's 100% clean. That way it helps keep your deposits on your incubator as well down, so you don't have to clean it as much. Definitely, water quality in hatching is very, very important. Distilled water, any way you can get it, that's the way you want to go. So with the chemicals in the water, can also cause problems. It may not happen over time or right away, but over time it could cause your incubators to slowly get bad. So if you had an incubator that was, a 99% hatch rate the first time, over time you could slowly go down to a 97, an 85, or whatever hatch rate. Just really cleanliness and the water that you use, very important. Let's see. I went through all the candling and making sure you're not opening it that much. So in the next part, also talking about the honey texture coming out of excuse me, the egg as they're hatching. Check out the rotation part 2, and in part 5 we'll be talking about hen health and egg health. That will answer a lot of those questions, as well as with, as I said, rotating, ventilation, and just making sure everything is closed and left closed. I know it's hard sometimes when you get a chick that hatches a little early and you're excited. Oh my gosh, look how cute it is. Oh, the poor little thing is lonely. No, that poor little thing is not lonely. It has all its friends and brothers and sisters in that incubator that it's still talking to while it's being hatched out. So they will encourage all your other eggs to hatch. They will talk to that chick that's in this egg and say, come on, come out. Keep going. They will be a cheerleader. So keep your chick in there. Let them do their job. So, bottom line, as you heard through talking, how important I feel the humidity and temperatures are. Find your own way, what works for you. Read your incubators by your end hatch rate, but don't mess up your end hatch rate by opening it too much at hatch time, trying to take a chick out because you feel bad for it. Feel bad for all the other ones that you ruined hatching by opening up your incubator. Let them in there, let them alone. Let your incubator do its job. It's built the way it is for a reason. Just let it go, let it work.